everyone, I am Leah Gentry and I'm with Menomonee Falls Public Library, and today I'm going to be sharing an online version of what I usually do in person, which is the cutting the cable cord class at the library. So this class normally runs about an hour when we do the in-person version. So for the online purposes, we'll be splitting it into three parts, so three separate videos that will be posted throughout this week. These videos will stay online for a while, so feel free to go back and watch them again or share them with someone if you think that they might find the information helpful. So we'll go ahead and get started with part one of this series, which is just going to be really an introduction to cutting the cable cord. So in part two and three, we'll talk more about actual services that you can subscribe to and how to make these things actually work on your TV. But for this first part, we'll just be going over some of the basics of cutting the cable cord. So to start with, what exactly is cutting the cable cord? I actually do get this question sometimes in my class, so it's a good starting point to make sure everyone's on the same page. Basically, it means when a person is no longer being best served by traditional cable or satellite services, and they decide that they want to cancel their subscription. So why would a person want to do this? Why would they want to move away from cable? The number one thing that I hear a lot in this class is money. So a lot of times the cost of cable continues to rise every year, and people often have to call and argue with the cable companies to try and get it lower. And it's just kind of this game that they're tired of playing. And it'd be nice if cable sort of worked like car insurance, where the longer that you're with the company, you build up loyalty and your rates start going down. With cable, it seems to be exactly the opposite. The longer you're with them, the higher and higher your bill continues to climb. And another reason would be that you can eliminate extra channels that aren't being watched. So a lot of times people are paying maybe hundreds of dollars for hundreds or thousands of channels that they're just not really watching. And if you really stop and look at your TV habits and think about what you watch, there might be 10 or 20 channels that you really watch on a regular basis. So you start wondering, what exactly are you paying for? And each person's situation is unique. So I've had people that have sat through this class for an hour and then said, well, I think I'm actually just better with cable. And that's fine. There's tons of people that cable is the perfect option for them, and that's totally understandable. So I like to talk about internet needs because you really do need a good, strong internet connection in your home for many of these cable alternatives. So if you live in an area where that's just not possible for some reason, maybe it's wooded or maybe you just can't seem to get a good internet connection, this might not be a good option for you. Just to go over some internet speed basics, some of the terminology can get a little confusing sometimes. An Mbps stands for megabits per second. And to put that into context, 5 megabits per second is what's recommended for one basic streaming of Netflix. So if you only in your house at one time are watching one stream of Netflix on one TV, 5 megabits of internet will do that for you. A lot of times these cable companies will boast that their internet, is up to 100 megabits per second. That's great, but you don't actually need that much unless you're heavily using it, which a lot of people don't hit that limit. And there are several internet providers out there. Some do have territories sort of locked down, but there are options out there. They do vary based on location. And this is a great website to check if you are not happy with your internet provider. You could perhaps see if there is another option out there. So the name of it is internetprovidersbyzip.com. Very descriptive, very to the point. And we'll go ahead and click on that and you can see what it'll look like if you go to it. So up here you enter your zip code, which I've already entered the zip code for Menomonee Falls. And we'll hit search. And it does just take a second to load. And then here are the internet providers that are available in the Menomonee Falls area zip code. So some of these are for businesses, as you can see, AT&T Business, CenturyLink Business, but some of them are for residents. So there's AT&T, there's DishNet offers one, Earthlink, DSL Extreme. So there are some options here, and the nice thing is that it includes their phone number as well. So if you wanted to take some time and call these numbers, you could perhaps end up lowering your internet costs by doing that. So next I'd like to talk about my experience with cutting the cable cord and why I decided to create this class for people, because my experience can help kind of shape how you move forward if this is something that you decide to do as well. So I did cut the cable cord about 7 years ago now. And I did that because I realized that I was mostly just watching Netflix and DVDs that I actually was getting from the library. And so I realized that I really wasn't using my cable, and I made a list of the TV shows on the cable that I really wanted to continue watching. So how would I go about and make that happen if I got rid of it? I looked at what services could offer me this content. So services include things like Netflix or Hulu. And then what devices would I use to access this content? So how was I going to watch this? Did I want to watch it on my TV? Yes, I did. So how was I going to get this onto my TV? And then I did a lot of research. So with this subject in particular, you really can't underestimate the power of just a Google search. There was so much that there's so much information out there about this, especially now. So if you just start doing, just a couple hours worth of research, even you'll probably get all of your questions answered. And then next I decided to compare costs to see how much I would actually be saving. So with streaming, I went ahead and bought a Roku streaming box, which is what was going to make it possible to watch Netflix and Hulu on my TV. And this box cost me $100. It was a one-time cost, and did get the most expensive box that they had. So there are cheaper options out there if you're interested in those. And then I added a TV antenna to my TV, which was a $30 one-time cost, and we'll talk about antennas a little bit more in a bit. And I had two streaming services. So I already had Netflix, and I went ahead and added Hulu, which at that time was $16 per month for the two of those. For cable at that time, I was paying $60 per month. So when I calculated my savings, I ended up saving $44 a month. So within 3 months of the switch, my savings had paid for those one-time costs of the Roku and the antenna. So after 3 months, I was just saving $44 a month. And I really wasn't missing the cable experience at all. I was happy with the change, and I've never gone back. So if you decide that, or you think that you would like to possibly cut the cable cord, there are some things to be considered that might help you get started. So like I did, I would suggest that you make a list of the networks and the shows that you absolutely want to watch. And then look at the services that will provide this content that you want. So again, the services are things like Netflix and Sling TV. A lot of times when you sit down and you actually make this list, you realize the things that maybe you're watching just because you're bored, or if you had other options, you wouldn't be watching that. And this is a good way to really decide what's actually important to you. And just as a reminder, a lot of networks actually offer their shows for free on their websites or on their apps, which you can get their apps on TVs. So if there's a show on NBC or ABC that you really love watching, you can watch that for free through their apps. And then I would recommend that you consider adding an antenna to your TV. Again, if this is really helpful for those network shows that you might enjoy watching. So antennas are quite different than a lot of people are used to from the past. They're not necessarily the rabbit ears that go up on the roof anymore. The antenna that I bought was about the size of a mouse pad, and it just sat on my TV stand and plugged into the back of the TV, and I was able to get tons of free channels through that. So the website tvfool.com can show your proximity to a tower and the channels that you could expect to pick up if you were to install an antenna. So I will show you that website here, and you can kind of see how it works. So once you click on that link, it'll take you to this website. And about halfway down here, check your address for free TV. You'll see a click here link. So once you click on that, it'll pull up an area where you can put in your address here. So address, city, state. I'm just going to type in the zip code and hit enter. And that's all it needs to pull it up. But if you wanted to be more specific, you could put in your full address. And then here you'll see are the channels that you can expect to pick up if you attach an antenna to your TV in Menomonee Falls. So the ones in the top here in this kind of bluish greenish color are the ones that will come in really clearly if you have a clear signal. If you're in a heavily wooded area, maybe on the outskirts of the falls, you might have a little more trouble with this. So again, it's worth trying out. There's no harm in purchasing an antenna and trying it, and if it doesn't work, just returning it. The people at Best Buy or Amazon or whatever, they get that all the time. And the channels down here in the pink are ones that are going to be sort of more hit and miss, and as the color changes, the frequency gets worse and worse. So if you want to try that and put your address in, that'll probably give you quite a bit of information on if that's something that'll help you. So they do also have something called OTA DVRs, which are over the air DVRs. So these work for antennas. So a lot of people, they are concerned about getting rid of their cable because they have their DVR through their cable package, which allows them to record shows when they're not going to be home, or they just don't want to watch something, or they want to fast forward through commercials or whatever the case may be. And they're worried that if they give up cable, they're going to lose that capability as well. But you can purchase one that will work with your antenna. These do tend to be a little more expensive. I think the cheapest one that I've seen is around $100 to get. However, you do pay about $20 a month to rent a DVR through a cable company. So if you're buying one outright for $100 versus renting $20 a month, within a few months, you will again end up saving money. Oh, okay, so that is actually going to be the end of this first part, which again is just meant to be a kind of a quick introduction to basic needs that you'll have to have in your house if you're going to do this, and things to think about when you're first moving forward. So in part two, we're going to talk about the the specific services that you might be interested in, like Netflix and Sling TV and different things like that you maybe have heard of but you haven't tried out yet. And for this part, if you have any questions about this, about antennas or you know OTA DVRs or anything like that, go ahead and drop us some comments into Facebook, and I will do my best to answer them for you. All right, thank you guys.